Hello. Doing a quick one today where I'm talking about Mercury stuff. Mercury just recently ingressed into the sign of Sagittarius, which is the detriment of Mercury, not a sign that Mercury does well in. And Mercury has also, as I'm in the midst of making this video, is transiting the South Node in Sagittarius, um, where there's going to be a solar eclipse coming up soon. But before the solar eclipse, we have this Mercury action going on. I made a video not that long ago about Venus on the south node of, Venus on the south node. Now Venus is in Capricorn, so it's been a while since I made that video, but Mercury is doing a similar transit. And I don't subscribe to the modern astrology point of view that looks at Venus, or sorry, that looks at the south node and the north node as having to do with past lives and stuff like that. But I generally take the south node to indicate a kind of general decrease or perhaps maybe a sense of lack. Um, there's a modern astrology point of view that the south node is kind of like falling back on some old habit or something like that. Um, I think I'm a little bit more open to that modern interpretation of the south node than the idea that it's like some past life thing, or I don't know. But regardless, Mercury's there now, and the south node is said to decrease both the good and the bad of whatever is associated with any given planet or placement that it's around. And so this is interesting because Mercury is already in its detriment in Sagittarius. So we can say that like Sagittarius is the philosopher's sign for one thing, and Mercury is the planet that has to do with language and communication and messages and writing and stuff like that. And so there is a sense that Mercury doesn't do well in Sagittarius, the philosopher's sign, because it's trying to tackle like topics that are perhaps too big for it to really handle. And to me, anyways, when I think about Mercury in its detriment in Sag specifically, there's something about that. You've got the difference between Mercury and Jupiter, where doesn't do well in Mercury signs and Mercury doesn't do well in Jupiter signs. That you've got the biggest planet in the solar system and the smallest planet in the solar system. Mercury often, people with strong Mercury in their charts, like Virgo placements, tend to be very detail oriented, which can be helpful, and it's actually can be a good thing to look at all the small details and read over the fine print and that kind of stuff. But that would be an example of what is not happening right now. What is happening right now is that Mercury is in a place where it is not getting bogged down in the specifics, in the details, and it's kind of getting swept up maybe in well, I don't know. I was going to say holiday cheer, but right now it just looks like a gray November day as I look outside. It's the Thursday today before Black Friday, and actually I was on my mind this Mercury thing. I just made a purchase. It wasn't an impulse buy by any means. I was basically waiting for I'm not really a big like Black Friday sale kind of guy, but I was waiting for Black Friday to roll around so that I could buy Ableton Live, which is an digital audio workstation. Something that I've used in the years past, but I figured I'd shell out the money for the big full version on the day of the sale and stuff like this, and so I can maybe edit to get some music I've recorded over the past year or so. I won't get too much into my music making stuff, but it was kind of like on my mind though that I'm like, it's not really the most auspicious of signs to be making a. I mean, I had what's funny though is because I was planning this for a while, and I had to wait specifically for it to go. I was waiting specifically because I knew that these programs usually go on sale around Black Friday, so I was waiting specifically for around this time to make the purchase. I was not waiting specifically for this time because I would have thought that the astrology would be specifically good for it, though, because I don't know about like putting the investment into something when Mercury is right exactly conjunct the South Node. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm a little bit like, but it's one of these things where it's like there's something of the spirit of Sagittarius, which is a Jupiter sign, which I feel is very jovial. Jovial. The word jovial is actually related to Jupiter. By Jove is another name for Jupiter. It's like the happy, jolly Santa Claus kind of sign, and it's sort of like to me seems to have the spirit of just this abundant, generous, saying yes to things. And I think that it's kind of an odd timing to have Mercury exactly on the South Node. Well, I mean, it's not really black, but tomorrow's Black Friday, actually. And Mercury in this position is moving fast as well, which is another thing to take into consideration. That not only is there this not looking over the fine print and the details and it's not a very nitpicky Mercury, but it's also Mercury that's moving quickly. So it's, shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing. Although I don't, in this case, there could be some like impulse buys maybe with Black Friday, or again, it's also, I don't know about shipping, but we just in BC here, we just had these floods, which I made a little video about, not just a kind of a quick one to make note of it as it was happening, basically. But we had these floods that like knocked out our highway systems. So if you think about the decrease of the South Node together with Mercury, it's sort of like that could go with it, because Mercury also is like the highways and byways, like the traveler, the courier, the FedEx delivery guy, and so on. And we've got this. I think our highways we've got our bridges are being rebuilt. We've got some improvised bridges going up and stuff like that. But it's kind of a precarious situation, perhaps, for a lot of British Columbians. And I think maybe that could also perhaps be indicated by Mercury on the South Node. What is interesting, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about making this video yesterday. And I was but I was a little bit like kind of tired, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just pass on it. It's like, like Mercury's South Node. It's like even the idea of me making a video, recording something like this, communicating it, putting it on the internet, sending it through the internet tubes and everything. That is a very that's a mercurial process, and with the South Node representing a decrease. It might also just be like, let's just skip the whole thing and not even worry about it. Let's just like forget about it, which I was almost gonna do. And I was noticing that a lot of my other astrologer friends were making videos about things happening, there's a sextile between Mars and Venus. I didn't do that one, but I didn't see anybody mentioning this Mercury stuff. And you know what? It's like. Mercury is moving so fast. In a few days, actually, there's going to be a Mercury Cazimi, which I'm going to get to next. But it's kind of there's something about this in particular that kind of it went with. I was reading a book where they're talking about this Japanese idea that comes from Zen Buddhism about the impermanence of things, and that. it's actually kind of an interesting practice trying to make videos for the astrological transits because, you know, give enough time and things repeat themselves, you'll have similar transits, you'll have similar aspects and stuff like that. But it's kind of interesting that, like, this thing about, you know, the South Node in Sagittarius, the South Node takes about 18 years approximately to do the whole 12 sign loop. So, you know, another 18 years from now, the South Node will be here in Sagittarius again, and who knows, maybe it'll time up that there'll be some interesting South Node transits around whatever, Black Friday or American Thanksgiving or something, and we'll have a similar set of stuff going on. But I mean, as it is, this is a unique moment where Mercury is on the South Node of Sagittarius at 0-1 degree. And it's a very specific flavor, a very specific set of circumstances. And in a few days' time, it'll be completely different because Mercury's going to go Cazimi, Mercury's going to change positions, we're going to do a bunch of stuff, but it's like it's like taking snapshots of these little fleeting moments that are very temporary, that are very transient, and it's kind of like this question of, like, you know, what's even the point? Like, why even go through the trouble? Like, I'm going to record this video and maybe, like, what? I don't have that much of a follower rate right now. How many people are going to watch it? Like 20 people are going to watch it. And then, like, next week, who the hell cares next week about if Mercury was on the South Node today or not? Like, no one's going to care, are they? I don't know. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe, but it's like I'm making these videos that are going to be, like, stored on, like, YouTube servers for, like, decades and or however long until we have the great internet collapse, blackout, like in they talk about in Blade Runner or whatever, the big blackout that wipes out all the data. Until that happens, assuming, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. You know, like, I'm making these videos for these little fleeting, transient things, but isn't there something like inherently, like, nice about? I don't know what nice is the right word. There's something like that capturing the fleeting beauty that the Japanese people recognize with Zen Buddhism, of, like, something that's just there for a season or just appearing and then and as soon as you've talked about it, it's already gone. And it's so subtle too that, you know, people might even be like, oh, well, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about this square coming up, which is more intense and interesting. I'm not going to talk. This little thing. I don't know. I thought I'd throw that in there as something interesting anyways. But as on the 28th of November, see, it's only 3 days from now, as we speak, Mercury, or as I'm recording this, Mercury's at 1 degree Sagittarius. In 3 days, Mercury's moving so fast it'll already be at 7 degrees of Sagittarius, where we'll be doing the Cazimi, where in the state of Cazimi, Mercury is said to be in a more emboldened, it's in the chariot, basically. It's protected from the rays of the sun, and it's in a place where it's making the transition to being an evening star, meaning that after December 7th, we'll have a Mercury which is more mature. It'll be visible, eventually be visible after the sun sets. We will see Mercury in the evening as an evening star. What can I say? The other thing that's interesting about Mercury Cazimi on November 28th is that at the exact same day, Mars in Scorpio at 20 degrees trines Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 20 degrees. And that's not really directly related to the Mercury Cazimi because we're talking about Scorpio and Pisces, 2 water signs and a trine. But this is happening at the same time, and there is something that's kind of similar to what's going on in Sagittarius with Mercury Cazimi, in that Pisces is traditionally a Jupiter ruled sign, and that a trine aspect is traditionally to be said to be of the nature of Jupiter. And there's some interesting things when you get into the thema mundi about the way that the planets and the signs are all laid out. I'm not going to get into that right now. That's a bit of a digression. But if there's something, anyways, when I see things like this, 2 points of interest coming together at the same day, a Mercury Cazimi and a Mars trine Neptune, my first impulse is to say, like, what is tying these things, aside from the fact that they're having the same day, is there anything else in common? And the trine and the Pisces and the Sagittarius of the Cazimi all have this Jupiter quality, which, if you think about Jupiter, Jupiter is the kind of the positive, bold, yes, kind of generous, altruistic, but it's also kind of, I don't know, Jupiter, especially when you put Mars together with Jupiter, maybe it can be a bit arrogant or a bit kind of, I'm just kind of freestyling with this one, but there's something with, if you look at the actual planets involved of Mars and Neptune, Neptune has been described as being kind of like Jupiter on steroids, or Jupiter overdrive, Jupiter to the point that like knows no limits. And that could also, I mean, I don't really go with the modern rulerships of Pisces ruling or being connected with a Neptune rulership, but the fact that they both have that connection in Pisces, whether you agree with it or not, lends some relation between Neptune and Jupiter, I would say. There's something, Neptune has been said to have a quality that has to do with purity and idealism, fantasy. Maybe like it's like the pot of gold over the rainbow. If you are into combining the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck with astrology, something that's not for everybody, proceed with caution. The last card of the suit of cups is associated with the last decan of Pisces, which coincidentally, this trine is at the 20th degree, so that's, if you count from 20 to 29, that is the last decan of Pisces, with the 30th degree being the 0 degree of Aries. So yeah, from 20 to 29, that would be the final decan of Pisces, which is associated with the 10 of Cups, and it's a rainbow. People looking at the nice rainbow on the horizon and the 10 cups lined up along the rainbow, and they're kind of doing the wave. And so that quality is sort of one of idealism, of sort of chasing the fantasy, chasing the ideal, but maybe it's just a mirage. This is a very Neptunian, and when you combine it with Mars, trine to Mars and Scorpio, Mars sort of has that quality of separating, of severing, of cutting out, of being either protective in Scorpio. Scorpio has a more protective, defensive kind of quality, maybe a bit hyper vigilant, maybe a bit suspicious, suspecting, I don't know. But there's something about, I could see Mars and Scorpio kind of acting in a way that is trying to protect the idealism that is sort of represented by Neptune. Or so you have these kind of Mars militant, kind of either aggressive or defensive qualities. In this case, it's connecting up with the ideal of Neptune in Pisces, and there could be kind of a bold, kind of heroic kind of quality, like I'm standing up for what I believe in or what I believe is right, but it could all have this kind of quality of kind of lofty, dreamy idealism and not necessarily, and I mean, who knows, but it may not be grounded in reality. The Neptune often has that kind of danger associated with it of being a bit too much of the head in the clouds kind of thing. And interestingly enough, this is at the same time as I said that Mars is going Cazimi in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is also a Jupiter sign that feels very strongly about what it believes in, about standing up for principles and ideals. And with Mars Cazimi there could be a kind of a decisive communication where in the leading up to that, if you look at Mercury in Detriment in Sagittarius, I kind of think about like Christmas season, and maybe Mercury the communicator has been dipping into the punch bowl at the Christmas party or something like that, and it's maybe jolly and but not too sharp on getting the precision details across. But then what Mercury Cazimi at 07 degrees represents a kind of a moment of clarity in some way compared to the preceding days, as it's in the chariot of the sun in that perfect conjunction. And at the same time there's this Mars Neptune trine happening. So when you put all that together, there is there out of this sort of like drunken Sagittarius haze, there could be a kind of a decisive kind of standing up for what you believe in, or making some sort of like decisive statement or decision, something like that. So I thought I'd throw that in as well, because I mean, this is where Mercury's headed, and it's only a few days from now, November 28th. Now, am I just like bullshitting here, or is or is anything going to come of this? I don't know, but I thought I'd just throw this in as a interesting little astrological happening that's just unfolding within the next few days. Punch the like and subscribe button. Share my channel with all your friends and family, and go easy on the punch at the Christmas party, and stay tuned for more astrology videos. Thank you very much.